Grand Theft Auto, the Trilogy Definitive Edition for PC, Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation systems is one of the worst game remasters of all time. Rockstar single-handedly defecated on the legacy of these classic games so many know and love. At launch, the games had numerous technical and visual flaws that in some cases made the game borderline unplayable. On top of that, Rockstar delisted the original Steam versions of GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas, leaving new players who want to experience these games stuck with a horrendous buggy mess. Even with fixes that have been made over the years, the games still lack the magic that made the original game so great, and has left a deep brown stain on the history of the Grand Theft Auto franchise. Bubsy 3D for the PlayStation is one of the most atrocious 3D platformers of all time. In Bubsy 3D, players can attempt to control a pussy through various 3D environments. However, that's if you can stand the horrendous graphics and terrible tank controls. Good luck to anyone who attempts to conquer this game and its treacherous tales of impossible jumps, vomit-inducing visuals, and disorientating camera. For a game made for kids, I sure as hell would condemn my child for laying his hands on this game. One Reddit.com user by the name of the one and only Shrek6 actually completed this game only because he hated himself. This puts into perspective how bad this game really is. Charlie's Angels on the PS2 and Nintendo GameCube is a game based on the movie and franchise of the same name. This game is pretty much a monstrosity from head to toe, complete with everything needed to make any time with it truly insufferable. From its terrible camera viewpoints and outrageously idiotic combat, as well as some of the worst graphics of the 6th generation of games consoles, the game is a nightmare to complete, and with glitches such as the infamous memory card glitch, the game becomes stuck in a loop, leading the player to an eternity of suffering. Ride to Hell Retribution on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 takes players through one of the worst video game experiences known to humankind. This game is polluted with terrible graphics. For 2013, you would think it would be graphically stunning. It is also known for its horrendous writing, terrible glitches, and hideous presentation. One user on IMDb.com had this to say about Ride to Hell Retribution. I hate this game more than I hate 9/11/2001. This is my #1 worst game of all time. It has the ultimate glitch fest of out any game, and this game has a non-stop repetitive music and worst voice acting. On the surface, Action 52 for the NES and Sega Genesis seem like a great deal, an even greater concept of a video game. 52 titles, all in different genres and styles. However, after playing, you will realize that is not the case. The visuals will cause any player to get a major headache, and all of the various games all include glitches, as well as consistent crashing and programming errors. Action 52's signature game was called the Cheetah Men, where you take the role of a few anthro cat people. However, this barely makes Action 52 worth the money. I mean, really, just look at the gameplay. What would make anyone want to play the steamy pile of a dookie caca? Sonic the Hedgehog on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, also known as Sonic 06, is a crime against humanity and to the entire Sonic franchise. The game is a chore to play through, with its terrible level design and horrible control scheme, not to mention the glitches that make this game one of the worst gaming experiences you'll ever have. This story is so bad that it goes as far as to promote bestiality with a disturbing and unsettling relationship between Sonic and the princess. Why such a terrible game was released on such a modern console is mortifying. Superman 64 on the Nintendo 64 is often considered one of the worst titles in the Nintendo 64 library, and overall, one of the worst games to ever come out of the generation. This abomination's gameplay consisted of flying the Man of Steel through gold rings to achieve points. However, that is of course if you make it through the game's unplayable and broken state. Superman accelerates with every ring he enters, making the game borderline unplayable with its extreme difficulty and tedious gameplay. Big Rigs over-the-road racing, released for the personal computer and Mac, is by far one of the worst games to ever come out of the early 2000s. Unlike other titles on this list, this game is actually unplayable and is an incomplete and disastrous mess. One can try to complete the game's various racing modes, however, will be faced with the realization that the player will always win. Rival trucks are frozen in place, and the game's untextured surfaces allow the player to drive through them. Don't play this game unless you want a massive headache from the game's extremely loud engine sounds and its monotonous and horrid gameplay. E.T., the extraterrestrial on the Atari 2600, is by far one of the worst video games of all time, and is an embarrassment to the legacy of the Atari and video games as a whole. This game really needs no introduction, as it is often considered a main factor in the video game crash of 1983, and is one of the biggest commercial failures of all time in the video game industry. The game underperformed massively, and eventually, overproduction and returned copies were buried in a desert in New Mexico, foreshadowing its tragic and nightmarish legacy. Hong Kong 97 is a bootleg Super Famicom game released in the mid-1990s. The game is a bullet hell title where the player controls Chin, a super powerful relative of Bruce Lee, sent to kill the entire population of China. The game's back insert also notes that Chin is a heroin addict, which may be why he is considered a super powerful soldier. The game has been deemed extremely offensive for its racist and inappropriate remarks, as well as including a still image of a victim of the Bosnian War. The game is a dreadful and offensive mess, with its infuriating difficulty and unsettling imagery. Thank you guys for watching. If you would like to see more top 10 videos, subscribe, hit the like button, share, and turn on notifications. Have a great day.